My name is Derek Tacklebox and you are about to watch a video about fishing. I am, of course, lying to you, which ties into today's title. And the only difference is that I wasn't secret about that at all. I told my fib and then I admitted it instantly. Sometimes in wrestling, people go, I know what I'll do. I'll deceive everybody and I'll stay really silent about it. Maybe I'll get away with it, and they never really do. But yes, hello my friends, it is me, Derek Tacklebox, whatever I said, Simon from What Culture. Please do hit the subscribe button, and this is 10 wrestlers that secretly lied to the locker room. Number 10, the Radicals ghost Shane Douglas. Have you ever been ghosted? It is not nice, especially if you are already a ghost. You just want to go to the cinema with your ghost friends and buy some popcorn, and we've already veered way off track. As the rumor goes though, when Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn and Eddie Guerrero did decide to jump ship from WCW to WWE, there was a bunch of other people that wanted to go, one of which was Shane Douglas. Now, Billy Kidman and Conan were also like, oh man, maybe he will come too, but they were eventually talked out of it, I suppose, by WCW management. Things got really weird though, because Shane-O didn't feel the same at all, and yet all of a sudden he couldn't get hold of his fellow Radicals when he sat down to watch an episode of Monday Night Raw. And there they all were. There are various versions of this story out there, although Douglas in shoot interviews has told this one. But what we definitely do know is that Shane would like to have gone, and for some reason he never did. Number 9, Eric Bischoff and Brian Pillman. An oldie but a goodie, let us go back to 1996, because before this time, WCW was in a bit of a financial hole until Eric Bischoff took the reins, he ripped up the wrestling rulebook, and he just ran around naked. Figuratively. As his strategy was working so well, the boss was open to ideas, so when Brian Pillman came to him and said, hey, you know this loose cannon character I've got going on where we're gonna work everybody, why don't we also work the entire wrestling business? Because you can fire me, I'll go crazy on the independents, and eventually you can hire me back, and it will be gold. Now, nobody had ever done anything like this before, so Bischoff thought it was great. The problem being that Pillman was lying to him as well, because he did get his release and he made sure it was a legal one before he went to Vince McMahon and the WWF and said, can I have a bunch of money? They agreed, and he signed for them instead. This remains a mark of absolute genius because we turned the wrestling industry on its head, but it also meant that Eric Bischoff was lying to the locker room, whereas Brian Pillman, well, he was pretty much lying to everyone. Number 8, Hulk Hogan and Sting. This was a mistake. I will not hear any arguments to the contrary. It's like a comb over, don't do it. But at Starrcade 1997, Sting should have beaten Hulk Hogan for the WCW World title. That was it. No ifs, no buts and maybes. And while the Stinger did get the 1, 2, 3 and have the big belt placed around his waist, all the shenanigans that went down was this. All because Hogan saw Sting in the locker room and went, oh, he looks sad, so I don't think he's ready. I mean, I don't know, you have to go look it up for yourself. Don't forget, this had been years in the making as well, and all fans wanted to see was Sting get the 3 count and have his hand raised, but instead we got this dodgy referee nonsense, and then Bret Hart was here, and he'd only just signed with the company, so he got dragged down into this mess. I mean, I would never be able to get my head around it, and I tell you, whatever came out of Hulk's mouth was nonsense. And honestly, when you go back and look at this stuff now, even though it's like 20 plus years ago, you will say to yourself, it's almost as if WCW wanted to die. Number 7, Jake Roberts returns. Jake Roberts has had a very rough life. All you need to do is go and watch his documentary to realize this, but back in 1996, even though he'd been struggling with his personal problems, he thought he'd turned a corner. It's why his character in the WWF at this time was a reformed version of the old Jake Roberts, and he even did a sit-down interview with Jim Ross where he said all this. He talked about all of his past and how he wanted to shape his future. Everybody was crossing their fingers, because why would you want anything bad for the guy? It very upsettingly became apparent quite clear that this wasn't going to be the case, which is when the WWF decided, oh, why don't we tie it into the storyline, right down to Jerry Lawler making a bunch of comments about whiskey and drinking. I mean, it just wasn't very cool. It's also a really dumb thing to do because you're basically just pulling a trigger to make it worse, which is exactly what did happen. So even though Jake had gone to management and said, look man, I'm past it, I'm not gonna go back, he fell back into a slumber, and that was that. However, we don't need to worry about that because it was years ago. What we do need to worry about is 2022, and right now, Jake Roberts, well, looks and feels like he's in the best place ever, and that, my friends, is great. Number 6, the Boogeyman Lies. I like this story because it basically says, do what you have to do to get ahead, just make sure you don't get caught, otherwise you're gonna get boogeyman. For some reason though, Vince McMahon doesn't like aging. If you pass a certain point, he decides you've got to get off the TV, and he includes himself in that. And it's why in the mid-90s, why Hulk Hogan and Macho Man went to World Championship Wrestling. None of this should matter though, because imagine you flipped it on his head. I mean, take someone like Sean Waltman. He was basically already smashing it when he was 19 years old, and did anybody care that he was young? The answer is no. And I would assume that Mr. Boogeyman did realise this was the deal, because when he signed up for Tough Enough in 2004, he wrote down that he was 35 years old, even though he was actually 40 years old. Unfortunately for him, producers found out, and they disqualified him, which was the exact opposite of what he was trying to achieve. Still, it worked out for him because not only did he have a run in WWE, he signed a Legends deal recently as of me saying these words. So I guess the moral is, if somebody asks your age, -5. Number 5, Triple H. I mean, to be fair, this wouldn't have been the best time for Triple H to admit what he did or did not know about the Montreal Screwjob. And if you have never seen the documentary Wrestling with Shadows, go and watch it right now. But during that, Bret Hart's wife Julie finds Triple H and a bunch of others and basically points the finger going, you were all in on this and one day you're gonna pay. Given the situation, Hunter does start staring at the floor sheepishly like he's a child being told off by his teacher. And as we know in the modern day, of course he knows about this, even though here he's like, I didn't know nothing, please leave me alone. I mean, the whole thing wouldn't have even worked unless people like Shawn Michaels and his best buddy weren't in the loop. But honestly, Julie Hart is so mad here. If he had said, yep, I did it, she probably would have ripped his head off. And I did my research, I checked. I don't think he would have been WWF champion a couple of years later, because I'm 99% sure you need a skull. Number 4, Vince McMahon. And as we have mentioned one guilty party when it comes to the Montreal Screwjob, we have to mention the other one, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. The reason this one is slightly different is because when it came to Survivor Series 1997 and the finish for the main event, he went around and he basically lied to everyone. Like Jim Ross didn't know what was going to happen, Pat Patterson didn't know, Bruce Pritchard didn't know. They all thought we were going to have this schmoz. And it was the same for referee Al Hebner, who only got pulled aside a few seconds before this was going to go down when they said, oh yeah, you're gonna have to do this. This did mean that Vince was putting the wool over everybody's eyes until the deed went down, which is another reason why after the fact, The Undertaker grabbed him and said, you better go and apologize, otherwise all of this could get very, very bad. Number 3, Vince Russo mouths off. Vince Russo seemed to annoy a lot of people in WCW, but the one person you definitely didn't want to cross was Hulk Hogan, and he did that too. Now this whole thing was just nuts. To be fair to Russo, he always did want to try and push new talent on both Nitro and Thunder, but why to get there we had to have this shabarkle, I'll never know. For you see, at Bash at the Beach 2000, we did have a World Heavyweight Championship match between Hulk Hogan and Jeff Jarrett, and for some reason Jarrett laid down, he said, I don't want to do this properly, and Hogan was all annoyed and he put his foot on Jeff and he became the champion, and then he walked off and he left. I mean, it really, really did suck. And while everybody was in on this up to this point, afterwards Vince Russo got on the microphone and he tore the Hulkster a new one, and as it turned out, that was never meant to happen. Something Hulk had specifically said to Mr. Russo, and he used his contract to back it up. It got so bad that Hogan not only sued the company, but we never saw him in WCW again. So this just goes to show, if you are going to say things onto a PA, just tell the person beforehand. Number 2, AJ Styles and Vince Russo in TNA. Yep, he's back. I'm not sure Vince Russo ever learned. But we zoom forward to 2003 here, where Vince Russo was part of Total Non-Stop Action, and for a while there, he was kind of keeping things quiet. I would guess because he looked around the wrestling landscape and went, well, WCW's dead, I don't have many other opportunities. Sadly, his approach has always been utter carnage, so eventually he did hit the carnage button, because during this year, when Jeff Jarrett was in the ring, 2 people dressed like Jason and Freddy Krueger rushed him, beat him up before they revealed, oh my gosh, it's Vince Russo and AJ Styles. And did you know how many people Vince Russo told about this in the back? No one. He wanted them to think that it was real. He got what he wanted too, because most people were like, what the flub is going on? But don't work your employees and don't lie to them, because then you're never going to earn their trust in a business that's all about trust. Number 1, mass transit. So this is bad, terrible, awful, and horrendous, and straight up should never have happened. And I get where wannabe Eric Kulas was coming from. He just wanted to perform for his favorite promotion, but he was underage and he barely had any training, and yet for some reason ECW said, sure, you can have a match and you can have one against New Jack. Eric also asked New Jack to cut him open during the thing so he could gush with blood, and this got way out of control, and if you've never seen it, trust me, don't even bother. It is nothing like a worked contest, and it's more like a flipping massacre. But if this happened today, people would have been arrested, rightfully so, and the promotion involved shut down, and no company should be hiring people based on a conversation. Wrestling is dangerous enough as it is, without dragging all this extra madness into it. Know of any other wrestlers that secretly lied to the entire locker room? Make sure you let us know in those comments below, and then don't forget to like the video, share the video, and subscribe. And make sure you do karate hands as you're doing it. Then head over to whatculture.com where you can read yourself some articles with your eyes. Make sure you watch another video, and we're on social media. We would love for you to come and say hi. My name is Simon for What Culture, or Derek Tackle Feed, whatever I said at the start of this video. I don't know. I've drunk a lot of coffee today, which is an excuse that is not true. So I did lie to you and then admitted it. But the point is, thanks for watching. Have a great day.